were, they listen. And his scriptures and advice were to promote the interests of the country concerned to go on. So we had good leaders. They understand when you make the right criticism or move. He didn't say it openly, but by special envoys and so on.
Right, let's do a quick interaction with Mr. Adodo Kantamaklo, who is an elder statesman. He's joining us in the studio tonight for a discussion on African Union. Good evening, sir, and thank you extremely for joining us. So let's put the whole African Union issue into proper perspective. Do you get the feeling that Africa can be like the European Union, for example?
Well, if you look at the European Union, which one are we talking about? With Brexit? You know, when you have a political union, you always have all these kind of movements and detractions. I think that Africa overall is doing okay. The issue I see, the very first issue is the issue of language. And that boils down to English and French. This is the second time we have a president of Ghana who can speak and understand French, and he is actively promoting French, you know, in an English-speaking country. If we have a francophone country like Togo also actively promoting English, we will be communicating with each other.
So let's get it right. You're suggesting that the difficulty in proper African unity over the years, I mean, it's taking so long for us to get real unity. Yes. It has been because of language barrier?
Yes. Yeah, language barrier.
And beyond language barrier, there's nothing we can do?
You know, if you want anything, in fact, the first people who took language very seriously, first in Europe, then in Africa, were the Germans. The Germans, and they maneuvered the language, you know, they came through the Sahara with Hausa. They came here and they created the upper language. And they created, like a lot of people don't know, Akan in Osu, in Accra here. So there is no Akan tribe as such, but there are Akan nation with a lot of tribes in it. There is no other tribe as such, but there is an Ewe nation with a lot of tribes in it.
So when we look at the fact that there have not been proper African unity, for example, a free movement of goods and services, common currency like exists in the European Union, should we keep dreaming? I mean, several years on, the African Union dream.
Yes, because
should we keep hoping that we can unite one
day? We've always been like that, and that is why some people think we didn't have borders before, because you could move from here to Timbuktu, nobody stops you, you know. And when I talk of language as being critical, is communication and reading is development, and language leads communication. And if we take our president seriously on the French issue, which I am very much going to be vocal over, you know, I think that we'll go a long way to create African unity, because everything is done.
Talking about language, let's take, for example, the French-speaking majority of Cameroon. Again, the struggle between the southern Amazonian states of Cameroon. They've been pushing to be independent from Cameroon. And they say that the African Union has been unable to fight for the minority groups within the African Union. To that effect, the AU has been a fiasco. Is that a view you share?
No, because what they are talking about is they are Anglophone, and being Anglophone, and so what? You know, they were not born Anglophiles. And the other people too are saying that they are Francophone. If you go to Togo today, almost every secondary school student there learn to speak English. Unlike Ghana, where no secondary school learn and speak French. And when anybody says, speak French, and people start laughing. But without speaking French, how can you trade? If you are crossing the, okay. If you take your phone, mobile phone, and you go to Volta region, you must look for mango tree, before you can receive calls. And they charge there from 2 cedis to 8 cedis a minute. These are telcos. Ask them. Don't ask me. Ask them. What kind of service is there which between Aflau and Lome will cost 4 cedis a minute?
And so you think that if the African Union integration was finalized effectively in terms of bridging all the language gap, then this will not be necessary?
It will not be necessary. It will not be necessary at all. Language is key. And this is what our president has identified. It's key. Because everything has been done. Look at the way the independence matter was resolved. Do you know who resolved it? It was Obasanjo of Nigeria. He just declared at the end of the month, if Britain does not solve the Rhodesian problem, we will take certain steps. Margaret Thatcher was prime minister. He sent the ambassador, the high commissioner, to tell Obasanjo that, look, no Commonwealth country prime minister or president talks to the Queen's prime minister like that. When the month ended, Obasanjo nationalized British Petroleum, that's African Petroleum, nationalized Barclays Bank. And what happened? The same Margaret Thatcher called, what's the name? Called Ian Smith and said, hey, get the hell out of the place there and bring this man in. He has been there now since that time. He's never left, So we can look at success and those things as failures.
But overall, you wouldn't say the African Union has been a fiasco.
No.
But let's take for the Yahya Jammeh situation, for example. When Yahya Jammeh refused to leave power after losing elections, African Union stood by and watched him and didn't really was unable to effect any discipline in real terms. So people think that the African Union does not have the scruples to enforce its own continental ideals, and perhaps we should just forget about the AU dream and look at some alternative.
Yeah, because if there is an alternative, yes, but there is no alternative to unity, because if supposing there is no unity and you can't cross to Lome after 6 o'clock, is that the way we want to go? So it's necessary for us to continue striving towards African unity, because without it, I don't see any way. For example,
I see that you're a firm believer in the African unity ideals, and Kwame Nkrumah started it. Gaddafi couldn't finish it. I'm not sure Nana Akufo-Addo is the one who can finish it. I think that we're lacking a lot of institutional structures that will make the EU ideology sink in with the rest of the African continent. Removing trade barriers, removing limitations to the movement of people, getting a common currency which we have not been able to achieve. We keep going back and forth since Kwame Nkrumah.
Yes, and you don't even call Nkrumah and this unity. The first, as I said, the Germans were the first European country to move from vernacular to a language after Greek and Latin. The first European language was German. That's why we were speaking German here before the Germans came. And they have to give way to French, to English, to Dutch, to all kind of vernaculars, upgrading themselves. Even here, as we went into independence with English, you will see a lot of people say, oh, you don't speak Akan, are you a Ghanaian? Which means that they don't know that Akan is a language imposed on us by Germans. You see the point? So you have this kind of situation which will come up at all times, and that one should not detract us from pursuing, like you say, we go to heaven when we are dead, and people will come and show that there is no heaven, but still
we keep hoping that we'll go to heaven.
So
we're grateful for your time this evening. Mr. Adodo, I beg your pardon, Adodo Kantamaklo is an elder statesman, and he joined us. They're very optimistic about the AU dream, and we wish our viewers and listeners across the country and across the globe happy AU Day. I'm Stephen Ente. This is News at 10. We have more news for you. Please stay.
Every day I look at my wife, I realize how truly lucky I am. She took in my mom after we lost my dad. Her love is unconditional. She inspires confidence in our kids. She is the source of hope to all of us. And when it comes to protecting the family, she will not compromise. She goes the extra mile. Thank you.
Reliable
and Mahama, who addressed a Debar of chiefs and people of
credible and breaking news, all at your fingertips.
Who's found Asamoah Gyan?
Reliable, credible and breaking news, all at your fingertips.
Who's found Asamoah Gyan? Super finish!
Being on top of the news has never been easy. Visit us at www.3news.com for all your reliable news. 3 News, news at your fingertips.
Double that thing by Shelley. Here goes Messi. Yes, Jordan Ayew now with a chip.
Bolt going very near, comes Usain Bolt! Usain Bolt storming through, he takes it again, Blake!
Sports Station shows every Monday at 9 p.m. on TV3 and is brought to you by Cowbell, Our Milk, Malta Guinness and Betway.
Welcome back. Now, government's decision to ban the importation of some 49 medicines has been lauded by an executive member of the Ashanti-Bunuahafo branch of the Association of Ghana Industries, Christian Ajimang, a local medicines manufacturer, told TV3 similar initiatives should be extended to herbal medicine manufacturers.
oral rehydration salts, also known as ORS, folic acid, trasilicate, amoxicillin are some of the notable medicines that have been banned from importation. This means that the local pharmaceutical industries will be producing these medicines for the health sector. The new policy was contained in the Gazette Executive Instrument 181 dated on May 10, 2017 and signed by the Minister of Health, Kwekwajiman Menu, and copied to the relevant health authorities including the FDA, Parliamentary Select Committee on Health and the Ministry of Trade and Industry. An executive member of the Ashanti and Bunuafo branch of the Association of Ghana Industries and chief executive of Tabia Herbal, Christian Ajimang, lauded government for the initiative but said the herbal medicine manufacturers should also be considered in the policy.
If the government also come into our directions, like also buying some of our products, I think it's going to also help us to also boost our business.
He also said that this will help create job opportunities for the teeming unemployed.
On pupils of schools that have benefited from places of convenience under the Greater Accra metropolitan area and area water sanitation project have been identified as key in maintaining the facilities. The project has therefore launched a sanitation board game to help inculcate good sanitation practices among pupils.
Good maintenance culture has been mentioned as one of the hurdles to protecting public property. The Greater Accra Metropolitan Area Water and Sanitation Project has therefore identified maintenance as key to protecting places of convenience put up for schools under the project. The $150 million project, which is to provide toilet facilities for households, has therefore launched a game to inculcate the culture of maintenance in pupils. Pupils drawn from schools within the 11 metropolitan, municipal and district assemblies in the Greater Accra region attended the launch of the board game in Accra. The board game, just like a snake ludo game, has 60 boxes made up of red and blue. It allows players to progress when the numbers they attain after tossing the die take them to a blue box, which is a good sanitation practice. When you happen to get a red box, it indicates poor sanitation practice such as open defecation, and this moves you back to starting point. The project coordinator, Engineer George Asiedu, stressed the need to instill good sanitation behavior in pupils. On the project to supply toilets to schools, Engineer Asiedu assured all the facilities will be completed within the next 4 months.
We have these facilities which we refer to as an improved and hygienic sanitation facility for the schools. But we need to work on their minds. We need to work on their attitude and behavior. We are hoping that within the next 4 to 6 months, almost all the schools should be completed.
Save Child Ghana, the designer of the board game, expressed worry effort at improving sanitation has not been successful. Chief Executive Officer of Save Child Ghana, Eunice Babu, is optimistic changing the attitude of children is the way to go in order to win the sanitation war.
It's behavior that we need to change, and the best way are children. Children are agents of change, so it's also good to catch them young.
The Greater Accra Metropolitan Area Gamma Water and Sanitation Project is a $150 million World Bank funded project which took off in August 2014 and is expected to end in 2018. Under the project, some 260 schools, including 120,000 pupils and 5,000 teachers, will benefit from improved lavatories.
And in less than a month, the Tema metropolis has recorded 6 robberies, which led to the death of 1 person. Victims of the robberies were carrying large sums of money. Josephine Frimpong, our reporter, takes a look at the threat of the increasing spate of robberies in the Tema metropolis.
On May 3 this year, some alleged robbers snatched 1.6 million cedis and 300,000 CFA from a victim at the black market area at Tema Community 1. On May 10th, a young man was gunned down at the Tema Oil Refinery traffic light junction and robbed of 2.2 million cedis. Exactly 3 days after, on May 13th, 2 mobile money operators at Community 12 were also robbed of 10,000 cedis, recharge cards and phones. On May 17th, a resident at Community 6 was also robbed of 20,000 cedis. The latest, which occurred on May 20th, a Tema-based Burkina-Bay businessman was shot in the leg in broad daylight after robbers snatched an amount of 1.8 million cedis from him at Tema Community 4. The recent development has created fear among residents.
This time, we don't know what is happening nowadays in Tema. It is really disturbing.
The police must get closer to residents when they find anything suspicious, but residents also must be more security conscious.
The Tema Regional Police Command last year recorded similar robberies and killings. Aside this, residents of Tema New Town this month attacked personnel of the Tema Police Patrol Team for allegedly shooting a resident during their dawn operation. The police said the trend of the robberies are worrying.
We have observed some trend. It's not a complete robbery case. We have realized that sometimes it is as a result of misunderstanding.
Owing to the situation, the police have stepped up policing efforts.
The command has launched the Operation Zero Robbery. We've actually identified where some of these things are frequent and some of these troublemakers are. And we have put intelligence, we have put policemen there to patrol.
But one wonders why an individual will carry huge sums of money around when other alternative means are available.
At the Tema case, there's a trend. It looks as if it's a targeted kind of thing. We are advancing. We need to move away from our cash system to a cashless society where we do all our transactions online. That way, people will not see you holding many form of cash on you.
Emmanuel Kutin, a security analyst, said the complexity of security must be handled well.
It looks as if our police are not getting their acts right. Our patrol teams, by 3 o'clock, they are gone. Between 3 and 6 a.m. is a free period for them to roam around and attack innocent people.
Josephine Frimpong, TV3, Tema.
And the Christian Council of Ghana is asking government to continue funding activities of mission schools even after handing over to the churches. But former director of Ghana Education Service, Michael Insoa, says if the handover is not carefully handled, it will have serious implications on the country's free basic education policy.
Provision of education at all levels and control of all schools was taken over by the government after independence, but the religious bodies have complained of failing standards of education, moral decadence and lack of proper supervision after the takeover. Recently, government signaled giving back the management of the schools to the various religious bodies. A General Secretary of Christian Council, Dr. Kwabna Opuni Frimpong, says religious bodies will improve on discipline and moral values when they get involved in the management of the schools.
As we commend government for the move, we feel that the ownership of the schools must be respected and management of the schools. The churches' owners must be involved. And then the supervision. The churches must have space to supervise what happened in their schools.
The Christian Council insists the government must continue to fund some activities of the mission schools even after the handover.
In terms of payment of teachers and all that, we expect government to pay the teachers. So nothing should change per our understanding of a faith, to supplement and complement government. It should never be in the mind of anybody that, if government hands over the management of your schools, then government will just wipe off. No, Ghana government should not do that, because if you go that way, then the churches will be forced to do cost recovery.
A contract is expected to be signed between the government and religious bodies to formalize the handover of the management of the schools.
If the missions take over and therefore take over the managerial services, posting, training, and so that they will get the increase or improve the academic performance of children in their schools, then maybe the need for them to collect some levies or fees. If that is the only school in that community, and therefore some of the parents cannot send their children to school because the school is collecting some levies to support their activity, their management, then it will create a problem, because the country will be failing in its duty to make sure that every child that comes into the world receives at least basic education, and which should also be free.
And that's how we draw the curtains for News at 10. I'm Stephen Enti. There is more news at 3news.com. On behalf of the crew here, good night. And for those who listen to us on radio, thank you for leaving your dial there. Good night.